Tim. Welcome to Tim's Time. Well, I'm here in the studio, but I could just as soon be in the kitchen. In fact, I'm fulfilling my dream, right? One of my bucket list items to have my own cooking show, wearing my own apron, just like all the greats, like Emerald and all the rest of them. I just need my chef's towel here and I'm good to go. Like James Bond of years gone by and still existing, by the way. I tell people that I'm not really a chef. I haven't even had chef classes. I'm not even really that good a cook, but I can, like him, say I do dabble a bit, and I've been known to cook some things. And one of the stress relievers for me in doing that is not just I don't like cooking and preparing a meal. I like eating. I like eating a meal, but I do kind of enjoy the process of when I find a recipe or a dish somewhere out in the world that I really, really like, whether it's on a cruise ship, or, with West Indian pumpkin soup, or whether it is in a restaurant like Ruth's Chris and how they do their ribeyes or filet mignons or whatever it is. I enjoy trying to find that recipe, track it down, copycat it somehow, and duplicate it so that I can experience it in my world and my family can experience it. I'm not the best cook in my house. I'm not really in charge of the kitchen, but I like to dabble. And I'm going somewhere with this, and I'm coming back to where I was 2 weeks ago. Now, having said all that, you need to know that just a couple weeks ago when the kids were home, one of the dishes that I really like, if you've ever eaten at P.F. Chang's Chinese or Asian bistro, they do a chicken lettuce wrap that I really, really liked, and I just prepared some. I found the recipe, duplicated it, tweaked it a little bit through the years, and figured out exactly how it works. And if you give me a recipe and you give me the ingredients and the measurements are pretty proper, then I can stumble my way through it and I can produce pretty good chicken lettuce wraps. So, and I'm kind of excited about that, which brings me to planning. What? Planning. I didn't ask to be put in a position where I talk to a lot of younger pastors, but apparently my age has warranted that I've been doing this a little bit longer than some of them. And so I have the opportunity to talk to several peers and several pastors about things. And I've had the opportunity to share my color-coded schedule with many of them through the years because I believe in the importance of planning. Now here's what I want you to hear. And this is our lesson. This is something that's been reinforced to me through the COVID-19 pandemic. And that is the importance of planning. And hear this. God believes in planning too. And so all of those cliches and things that we've heard through the years, those who fail to plan are planning to fail. Our educator emeritus Wilbur Vaughan par excellence taught me this years ago. He's the first person I heard refer to the 5 P's things. I hope I have this right. Proper planning prevents poor performance. He gave me that years and years ago when we were on stewardship committee or somewhere like that together, talking about organizing, scheduling, and getting your funds in order and getting things in order for events. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a believer in scheduling your work. And if you want to drive me crazy, then show up for something and I know that you're supposed to be prepared and you're not. Because I'm telling you, if you want to heighten my anxiety, I know we're supposed to be ready to give an explanation for our faith in season and out of season. At any time, I can give an answer for my faith, but I do a lot better when you schedule me and I know what I'm going to do, and I really have high anxiety when I go to the pulpit and I feel like I'm not prepared. I need to be prepared intellectually as I've poured over the Word, and I need to be prepared spiritually as I've sought His blessing upon it. And you might not can tell the difference if you're sitting in the pews at Central or you're watching online when I preach. But when I'm standing in the pulpit, I can tell the difference. And if my prayer life hasn't been what it's supposed to be, I don't feel prepared. And if my time in the study hasn't been what it's supposed to be, I feel anxiety and don't feel prepared. Planning is an important part of being who we are and being one of God's servants. That's why he gave us a lot of verses in the wisdom literature about planning. One of my favorites is Proverbs 16:3. Commit your work to the Lord, and he will establish your plan. I like the way it's paraphrased in one of the newer translations or paraphrases. Put God in charge of your work, and your plans will succeed. So let me just say something to you, whether you are a leader, or whether you are a minister, or whether you are a homeowner, or whatever it is that you're in charge of and that you are attempting to lead in your realm. You need to be out in front as far as you can, as much as do a little bit better today. Attempting to lead, especially in ministry, and just play it by ear day after day means that somebody else is setting your agenda. And it's kind of like cooking without really having a recipe. I'm going to figure it out. Well, sometimes you can get that right. Sometimes you have some experience knowledge. You know, Mama used to put flour in her fried chicken, and she salted the flour before she dredged it and all that kind of stuff. And you can get by with it. But if you want to be at your best, then you have a plan. And if you want to maximize it, then you have a plan. And you know what you're doing. And I always worry about young ministers especially, but I always worry about my brothers and my sisters in leadership and ministry when I know that they're just sort of winging it. Well, wasn't Jesus spontaneous? Of course Jesus was spontaneous. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. God still is not caught off guard. But Jesus had an intention and a plan that he lived by. So much so that he was willing to hurt the feelings of those around him in order to accomplish his Father's will. Remember, Mark's gospel probably records it best. Early on, Jesus has slipped away. He's in his red block time between just he and the Father, and he's bathing his ministry in prayer and seeking his Father's fellowship. And Peter comes to him and says, everybody's looking for you. And Jesus, almost as if he doesn't care, of course he cares. He says, then let us go somewhere else. Why? Because that's the plan. I have to preach to other people also. One of my mentors from years ago, who first introduced me to the concept of missional/spiritual leadership, used to say, life's too short to not live intentionally. And anything less than living with intentionality is sin. I used to hear Reggie say that, and when I first heard him say that, I thought, really? And the longer I live, the more I believe that to be so. So commit your plans to the Lord. Put God in charge of your work. That means if he changes them, he changes them. And plan. Why? Because proper planning prevents poor performance. I've learned that afresh and anew. Because plans have to change. And we got to figure out what the new world looks like. But planning matters. So let's do it. And let's seek the Father. Commit it to him. Have a great week.